Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to my 10 favorite hero classes from Massive Darkness. Massive Darkness, which is a fantastic game system, has a Gamefound going on right now called Dungeons of Shadowreach, which is adding even more classes to this game. There is now 16 different classes in Massive Darkness, which, by the way, is what Simon's calling this whole system was Massive Darkness 2. It's just Massive Darkness now to cover this whole system. And there's a lot of new content, an underwater expansion, and a way to get several of the old hero classes that were only available in some of the different expansions. So I've gone through here, and again, this is just my 10 favorite, and this is also me doing some guesswork on the new classes because I haven't played them yet. I have played all the old classes, or at least have played with them in games. And I'm not saying that these are necessarily the best. In fact, one of my favorite is not, I think, as strong as some of the rest, but I just like them a lot. So we're just going to get started with my 10 favorite classes. Here we go. Number 10 is the Warrior. This is a new one with ways to upgrade. I found the Paladin from the original set, which, spoiler alert, is not in my top 10. They're okay. They're kind of a decent offensive player, and there's also the Berserker who has, can go berserk. The Warrior, which is a nice basic character, has different styles, and you're picking which style and then upgrading the cards to make those styles better. This is a nice one to get into the game, and if you just want to go through and chop things up, although I noticed some nice good defensive cards. So the Warrior just a good way to jump into the system, and that makes him my number 10. Number 9 is from the original game, and that is the Wizard. The Wizard is for people who like to min-max their character with spells. You have the Spell Amulet, which has these 4 basic spells on it, but as you level up the character, you're going to be able to upgrade these spells, and figuring out how to rotate the spell and use the right spells at the right times, able to do things. The Wizard can be an incredibly powerful class, but it also has a little bit of thinkiness to it. You're sitting there trying to think, all right, which spell will I upgrade? How can I use these to better help my party as I go through? My number 9, the Wizard. Number 8 is another new one from the current Gamefound project, and that is the Assassin. Now, the Assassin is very, very straightforward. The Assassin can turn areas into shadows, and Massive Darkness is all about fighting from the shadow. When you're in that shadow, you get that extra shadow die, except the Assassin has another shadow die, that extra die, and they have these shadow abilities that they start with. So this is one of the easiest characters, again, to explain. And in the rulebook, it's just a paragraph or so. But if you like that idea of using the darkness and becoming better in it, and also they're a great support character because they're turning darkness in for other people. So the Assassin, my number 8. My number 7 is also new. This is the Hunter. Now, I like the idea. I always like the idea. And Simon has done this in many other games, adding pets. The Hunter has 2 pets, the Juvenile Varon and the Giant Groundhog. A giant groundhog. I mean, this is good enough for me, right? You have this pet, and this one has more rules than many of their characters, but that's because the pets are going to level up. The pets are going to get their own special abilities. So having a companion that's with you, a lot of times when you play these games, you have a familiar, an owl, or, whatever, and you're like, yeah, whatever. These pets are actually going to deal damage. The Hunter sounds like a fun one. I mean, the Hunter sounds like a fun one to go through and solo, because if you're not playing with other people, you have at least that pet on your side. And if you have 2 characters, you now have 3. And I don't know, again, must I say, giant groundhog. But I like this idea a lot, making the Hunter my number 7. My number 6 is the Rogue from the basic game. The Rogue is a fantastic character if you like bag building games. You're pulling tokens from a bag, and you can add more tokens in, exchange tokens. The leveling up system of the Rogue is all about manipulating that bag. And of course, it's a Rogue. You're going to go around. You're going to backstab people. You're getting in there doing a little bit of damage. But the idea of having extra actions, the Rogue seems to have a lot of maneuverability. They're a lot of fun to play. And if you're someone who is coming into dungeon crawls from the Euro game side of the universe, I think this is a character that might really appeal to you. Number 5 from the current project is the Chronomancer. Now, of course, they know what they're doing when they make this one for me. Anything that has to do with time sounds like a lot of fun. The Chromancer has its own little real-time game that you play at the beginning where you're rolling dice and you're trying to get symbols and move tokens, and then some dice get locked and you have to use other dice to unlock them. But you're doing all this to get some time shard tokens. And time shard tokens can then be used in the middle of going through to help people out. In fact, the Chromancer can kind of interrupt other people's turns to do actions, which is something nobody else can do. He's a very strong support character. Hey, you want some extra dice? Hey, you want extra movement? Things like that. And if you can do really well at that real-time game, which is a minute between each thing, I think your team will be very thankful for that. Number 4 is the Ranger. From the base game, I've always enjoyed Push Your Luck. The Ranger was the very first character I ever played in Massive Darkness, and I'm still very fond of it because you're flipping cards over to have 1 to 3 arrows at the top, and if you get 7 arrows, that's amazing. If you go over 7 arrows, it's worse. Under 7 arrows, it's fine, but you want to try to hit 7 exactly. And as you upgrade in skills, you can get better at it. It's just so good. When you hit that 7, you're excited. Your team is excited. So if you like the idea of pushing your luck, of doing that, I get excited. The Ranger is often one of the first ones that I'll play, especially when I'm playing out of just the base box. 3 is the Cleric. The Cleric is my favorite of all the new ones, which is a little odd because in, most role-playing games, the Cleric is not one I gravitate towards, but I love the mechanism. You pick one of 3 different god cards here, and then underneath your board, you have these cards, and you can spend tokens to activate these cards, which then slide down to the bottom. But the farther up the card gets, the more powerful it is. This is from one of my favorite games, Arc Nova. I love this concept of manipulating these cards. Then the cards can get flipped over and become more powerful. And the Cleric has things like Aura, when you hit them. Just a really exciting character. I cannot wait to get this one to the table. Number 2 is from the Monks and Necromancer set, and that is the Necromancer. The Necromancer, man, he starts with some skeletons, and he just can start. The fact that you can take bad guys, bring them back to life, and make them fight the other bad guys is a ton of fun. The Necromancer has a soul track, and he's collecting souls from doing a variety of things, and you can do that to get strong, and there's a lot of really good abilities the Necromancer has. And I don't care. I just want to bring back monsters and have them turn on their friends and fight them. And to that end, I find the Necromancer to be just a really joy to play, even though the Necromancer is kind of a joyless class in theme-wise, but I find them to be so much fun to play. My number 1, there's no question about it, is the Tinkerer. The Tinkerer, which just a fantastic character. But the thing I like about Tinkerer is I like every way that you can take him. Many characters have different kind of routes. I want to make the character a little bit like this, each of the character classes. The Tinkerer has one route where you're just working on bombs, and you're throwing smoke bombs and all sorts of different bombs out there. That's great. But also, the Tinkerer can kind of be a blacksmith. He's a portable forge, and he can make constructs that fight. But even that isn't my favorite thing about the Tinkerer. My favorite thing about the Tinkerer is when I turn him into what I call Iron Man, where you have this own little exoskeleton suit that you're putting on, this exo armor that you put on your character, which replaces your equipment, and who cares, because it's awesome. And this variety, there's so many different things you can do with him. He is by far my favorite hero class, the Tinkerer. It's so neat in Massive Darkness to have all these different classes. Each class has different characters in that class. You pick this character, and that character is going to give you a special ability, but the class itself lets you do so many different things, and I love that there's 11 of them. Now we have 5 more. There's 16 different of them, and I bet you have very different thoughts on the process than me. You probably like some of the ones I didn't put on this list. You might think some of the ones I have on this list aren't that powerful. You might be excited about the new ones coming out. You might love some of the old ones. Let me know in the comments, and of course, check out the project right now on Gamefound. That is Dungeons of Shadowreach for Massive Darkness, my favorite dungeon crawler, and I bet you'll love it too. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.